healthiest miners first, at least the first two, so that if this capsule does get stuck somehow, the strong miners might be able to free it on the way out. Is that correct?
That's exactly the idea. They want to bring 2, 3, or 4 very healthy physical, mental, emotional miners, just in case there are any problems, miners who they think can handle the situation, then start bringing up the people who are the most vulnerable. But the idea is that they think everything will be fine because they did a test run with this capsule. They brought it down about 200 to the bottom. The mining officials was asked, why didn't you bring it to the bottom while you were testing? He said, you're halfway, you're afraid someone put down. But it did well the first time, but it's got to go up and down 33 times, and that's the major concern. They had no dust, no problem with rocks falling the first time, but after 33 times going up and down, that's where they realized there could be some problems. They're hopeful there won't be, but they're aware of the possibility of problems.
And not only do we have the drama of the scene that's going to be unfolding next several hours, and we hope you stay with us for it, there also is just the remarkable story of what these miners have been through, and a lot of that story really hasn't been told. The mental, the emotional, and even just the physical reality of being underground for this length of time, being together in darkness. It's really kind of a fascinating study in how people survive. And we're going to talk a lot about how they divided up their tasks, how they stuck to very rigid routine. They created light and dark areas, which was one of the things we understand that NASA had advised them to do to try to help with the circadian rhythms that people, need in order to function properly, so they're not constantly living in darkness, that there would be some area where there would be some light, and get their bodies used to having some sort of clock that they could adjust to. We're going to be checking in with Gary throughout this hour and throughout the night ahead. We want to focus, though, more right now on the rescue pod that's in place, waiting above the shaft right now. You've been seeing pictures of it throughout the evening. It's a pretty tight squeeze. I want to bring in Chad Myers. He can actually show you himself. He has kind of a mock-up of it down in Atlanta. Chad?
It's 21, a little bit bigger than that, inches around on the inside. And this is a mock-up. We put plexiglass on the outside of it, not the mesh that they're going to have. But as I open it up and I climb in, it'll get a little hollow in here, but you get the idea. It is a tight fit. I mean, it's a tight fit, but if I really wanted to compress myself, I could probably get in here another good 4 inches smaller than even that this is here. These men want to get out of there, okay? I'm sure they can contort themselves into even smaller spaces than this. This is not going to be the issue at all. If you notice, if you go out there and you notice on that outside shot, you'll see that there's a big white space up there. It's like almost 5 or 6 feet higher than the pod. The pod where the people go, the big white space is where there are cords, wires, and actually cables that will be the escape mechanism. If on the way up, there's a person in here and it gets stuck, they can unlatch it and literally drop themselves back down into the mine, back where they're safe, rather than being stuck in the hole itself. 90 degrees down here right now. Relative humidity somewhere around 80%. It's been like that now for 2 months for these guys, and they're going to be taken up rather slowly. Normal elevator of between 3 and 5 miles per hour. This is not going to go that fast. A 28-inch bore, diameter bore hole, a 20-inch inside here with a 20-minute ride all the way to the top. It's going to get much colder on the way up. Average elevator, 3 to 5 miles per hour. This going 1 mile per hour for that 2,000-foot ride to the top. The pressure is going to be lower up above. And we've talked to a lot of people today about the bends. Is there any chance that these men being down there very deep may have problems coming up so fast? Even though it's 1 mile per hour, that's still pretty fast if you've been down there for 68 days. So no, we don't think so. There's not enough pressure difference, and we don't think there's enough partial pressure of nitrogen and oxygen problems down there that when they come up, they would get the nitrogen bubbles like a scuba diver would if they were down underwater for too long. But the temperature up above at night in the middle 40s. One other thing at night, what happens is that, Anderson, it gets foggy there, and the helicopters may not be able to fly in the fog. So there's that. One more thing I want to bring to you. This is the picture of them bringing the drill out. And I know this has been a real Chilean success story, but that drill right there is that drill right there, made in Westchester, Pennsylvania. So there's a Made in America story to this too.
Yeah, in fact, we're going to talk to two of the drillers, best in the world, the guys who actually were drilling on this site, who are American. One of them was pulled in from Afghanistan, where he's working to help U.S. forces there. But again, we are looking at live pictures. We're going to talk to him in the 10 o'clock hour on 360. You're looking at live pictures as they are preparing this. Chad, if you're still with me,
yes.
they're going to have access to oxygen in this capsule. They're also going to have, I understand from reading, a video camera trained on on each of the people on the persons in the capsule,
yes.
So that if the person panics or begins to panic, they can be able to talk to that person through communication devices, which are also in a headset that the person will put on.
That's correct. There's oxygen in the bottom, and as I understand it, even though they built 3 of these things, they will be using 2 of them, alternating, getting one person out, putting the whole thing out, taking it down, getting that guy out, getting the other one prepped to put another person down. So they'll be alternating between the 2 of them. I haven't seen that happen yet, but we're only looking at the one right there anyway. We haven't even seen the other one come to the site. The oxygen is there so that as the person comes up, I mean, literally, you're in a confined space. I know I'm saying that this is pretty big for me because I can get in it, but this is clear. This is light. Could you imagine if this, I mean, this is going to be a dark space.
Yeah.
So the camera will be trained on them, bringing them up 1 mile per hour. If something goes wrong, this can go up to about 3.5 miles per hour if they really turn on the juice. If they understand that this guy's in trouble, something's very wrong, we have to get him out of there. We can't wait 20 minutes for the full ride. Let's go. They can look at the man and see what his conditions are, take his vital signs as well on the way, and they'll know everything about him as he gets to the top.
All right, Chad, we're going to be checking in with you. We have a lot of folks standing by. Chad, we're joined now by Dennis O'Dell, Director of Occupational Health and Safety for the United Mine Workers of America. As we keep up this picture, Dennis, we see the capsule in place basically over the hole that has been drilled. You've actually been in one of these capsules, is that correct?
Yes, sir, sure have.
What's it like?
Well, I'll tell you, your life is in somebody else's hands. It's almost like you're helpless because you're standing inside this cage. You can't bend over. You can't move. I mean, you're just wedged in there tight. So as this is being pulled up out of the mine, you're at the mercy of whoever is running the hoist that's operating that capsule. So you have no, it's just like, I'm a kind of person that likes to have some control over some things in my life, but this is one of those instances where you have no control whatsoever. You just have to put your faith in God and hope that the operator of the hoist knows what he's doing and everything works out, that there's no shifting in the shaft and what have you.
That's also the life that 33 miners have led over the last 68 days. Their lives have been in other people's hands. I mean, even in getting access to water, it was all dependent on people sending it down, through the various shafts that they had drilled. And I know for a lot of them, that was one of the tough things. There were complaints about, the feeling of having no control over what's happening to you.
Right. And that's tough because miners usually have some control over what they do. I mean, on their daily activities, when they're working, they know what they're going to do. When we're digging the coal, digging iron or gold or whatever it is we're mining, we have a method to the way we work. And in cases like this, in emergency situations, you lose that control. You just have to put your faith, like I said, in God and those who are doing the rescue and recovery in hopes that, you've had enough training. Somebody asked me earlier, can you ever be trained well enough for these situations? Well, it's good to have training, but I can tell you from experience, if you've ever been trapped, if you've ever been in a fire situation or a rescue or a recovery situation, training is good, but it doesn't always have you well prepared for what you have to face because there's an unknown.
Dennis, how concerned are you about the actual shaft that has been drilled now? What do we know about the condition of this shaft? I know they put down probes, they put down video images. There was some I think some cracking I read at a certain point in the shaft. How confident are you that it can hold?
Well, you're always optimistic. I was pleased to see that when they did a study of the shaft, when they put the camera down the first time and they were trying to decide, whether they wanted to put some tunnel liner inside of it, some of the casing, that they decided to go ahead and do that.
Tunnel liner is what is metal to shore up the sides?
Yeah, it's just like a metal, that it fits the same round inside the shaft itself, so that it keeps the rock from being able to fall in. Similar to, like, if you've ever gone through a tunnel underwater, or in New York City, some of the tunnels you go through, those tunnel liners, only in a smaller version, that you'd have in this hole going underground.
Dennis, I got to interrupt. I just got to go to Carl Penhall because we have a short window on the satellite with him. We'll come back to you. Carl Penhall's on the ground, has been really since this thing began on and off. Carl, talk about what you're seeing tonight, where you think this operation is, when you think that first person is actually going to go down in that shaft.
I think we're still maybe a few minutes away from that, Anderson. What we've been seeing over the last few moments is the Phoenix capsule laid out on its side. We've been seeing the rescue technicians hooking up the various communications lines. It is vital that this rescue capsule has a fully functioning fiber optic cable that gives both a video and an audio signal back to the rescue workers. In fact, on the cage door, we have seen that about chest height, there's a wide-angled camera that will vision rescue workers above to give them some sense of how the ride is going for the miner, how the miner is reacting. So it's vital that those systems are in place. They also want an independent fiber optic cable going down to the mine as well, so that the rescue experts that are being sent down there first can send information back up about what they see down in the mine, about from their perspective underneath, how they can see the rescue capsule performing. So they really will take all the time that they need to be doing this. Then what we have seen even now, and you can see on those live pictures that the government is feeding out, the Phoenix 2 capsule is now dangling over the top of that 28-inch diameter rescue hole. And what I expect to see over the next few moments is that they will put the Phoenix capsule in empty. There won't be a rescue worker on board initially. They will drop it down, maybe halfway, pull it back up again, just to check that it's performing, just to check that they have comms, that they have communications, both with the capsule and down below. And once they're sure of that, then the first rescuer will climb aboard. That rescue capsule will head down more than 2,000 feet under the depths of the earth, and then we can say that this rescue mission is on, Anderson.
And Carl, where are the families watching this from as we watch these live images of this capsule poised right above the hole?
Well, this area where we are now is where the families until now, since August the 5th when this cave-in occurred, this is where the families had been living, a tent village that they gave the name of Camp Hope. Now, this in the last week has become mobbed by the media. As you know, the eyes of the world are on this rescue mission. 1,500 journalists, 300 media outlets from 39 different countries, we are told. And really, the families, both for their own privacy, most of them have moved from Camp Hope to an area of other tents that have been set up by the government beyond a barrier where the press have no access. 1 or 2 family members are still around here. But when this rescue mission gets on in earnest, then the 3 closest family members of each miners will head up the hill. They'll head up to a rest area close to the field hospital. And once each miner is pulled out of that hole one by one, they will go through the field hospital for a couple of hours, checking the vital signs, checking they've got no lung problems, and then will come the time when those family members, the closest family members, are reunited with their families. So relatives here in Camp Hope now looking pretty thin. It is pretty much a media throng here, Anderson.
Okay, and we're sharing in the lower portion of your screen, for you watching at home, the thing that just went to color bars, actually, those are local people, family members also watching in a nearby town where a lot of folks have gathered. We got to take a quick break. We're going to bring you all the latest as we think we are just a few moments away from this capsule being lowered down for the first time. Up next, we'll also, in addition to Dennis Dell, who's kind of going to walk us through, narrate us through it as it happens live, we'll also talk to 360 MD's Sanjay Gupta and 2 experts from NASA on what these men have been through. As you know, NASA was brought in to consult early on in this, what they're going through tonight, and also what their state of mind may be in the days ahead. We'll be right back.